Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. Today, I have an awesome guest. He is an entrepreneur, digital engagement executive, branded content specialist, mobile strategist, and creative digital strategist. He has worked with a wide variety of startups and Fortune 100 companies to generate new revenue streams that build digital businesses. His natural talent and passion includes bringing together creatives, tech folks, and business development executives to collaborate in a cohesive environment that creates vanguard, innovative products, and cutting-edge campaigns. Welcome, Ty Braswell, and thank you for being on my show.
I feel like no one will ever do that intro as good as you. I may even make it I may even have to edit it and make it one of my ringtones. Anyway, thank you very much. It was not only you're very generous to bring me on your show, but your enthusiasm for my intro is really unparalleled. So double thanks.
Thanks a lot, Ty. Awesome to have you here. And I love bringing the energy and the passion when we start the show. And I'm sure it's going to lead on to an amazing value for everyone that's watching and listening today. So you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Well, my journey, I'd like to frame it in this sort of context. You know, I started off coming to California and moving from the East Coast, and it was a big deal. And got involved with a variety of different social change groups and that were fighting the good fight on the environmental front. And that led me to meeting a handful of musicians that were involved in different social change. And that got me in the music business. And I was able to go from working at a management company to working at a record label to working with a woman that defined the rockumentary we did these different documentaries on different bands for Atlantic Records, a division of Atlantic Records. And then I got back into management, and then .com happened, worked for the first company that ever sold a legit music download. And that was the beginning of a lot of people being very upset and much more people being incredibly excited. This was before Napster. And then that led me to going back in the record business and working for Virgin Records. And that was the beginning of the big epiphany for me, because I had left this company, Liquid Audio, that had done the audio download service, and went to work at Virgin at the time when they started to realize, all the different labels started to realize that they had to create these different departments of new media. We weren't even called the digital folks, it was the new media folks. And I took that job, and then I love telling the story that that was pretty significant, that I had one of my developers, great guy, Kurt Noble, really brilliant, helped us build out a lot of artist websites and was quite a visionary. Basically said, hey, listen, man, you gotta get all your team in your office and stop what you're doing. I was like, come on, what are you talking about? He goes, no, really, you gotta trust me on this. I'm like, Kurt, I think you're being what is it? He goes, just get everybody in the room, go on a speakerphone, get in front of a computer. I said, okay, great. I was VP of New Media at Virgin Records, and I'd started, this was like 6 weeks into me taking the job. And he goes, all right, type in napster.com, Napster, and tell me what you see. And that was the game changer, and that was the beginning of me, along with a couple dozen other executives at record labels and music distribution, of having a courtside seat to the first very visible, huge disruption of what this whole digital thing evolved into. And it was extraordinary. And they were so many things that we did wrong by increasing the price of CDs and then suing our customers. But it was the first multi-billion-dollar industry that digital and technology wreaked havoc, and it was amazing. And I continued, doing stuff in the music business and digital. Um, and then I decided that, there was something else that I wanted to do. And I found that, and this has kind of been a bit of a North Star for me, is that when digital starts disrupting and there's a lot of chaos and opportunity, I love that energy. That's where I want to be, because so much things are happening so fast, scaring people, getting people motivated, people working together that normally wouldn't work together, all that sort of stuff. And it's very organic. So I decided that I really wanted to become a mobile expert. And it was at the time right before the iPhone had come out, and it was soon to come out. And I just did everything I could to get small consulting jobs. And that led me to this amazing opportunity. A friend of mine, Andre Micah, was brought in by the National Hockey League to update their whole digital strategy. And I had the great fortune of working on his team and learning how to build out the first mobile app platform for the National Hockey League. And it was fantastic. And this is the first time I'd ever had an assignment in sports. And at that same time, I had some colleagues that were working on what we were doing at NHL, and they saw what we were doing with the mobile strategy. They were also working with Major League Soccer. So they asked me if I could, carve a little time out and help them kind of blueprint that, because we could clone a bunch of things that we were doing. And all the leagues were, they didn't see themselves as competitors, but as collaborators. And in baseball had really taken a very smart strategy years before, a digital strategy. And they were, the leadership in sports as far as figuring out how do you charge, do you show how many ads, all the different stuff that was pioneering. It has turned into, quite a multi-billion-dollar industry. I remember, just, conversations about, well, on the broadcast, can we mention that we have an app? I mean, it was just so much new territory, which was fantastic. And that was a great experience for me. And I learned a lot. And prior to that, I had been at Sony, and I learned a lot there of not success, but of failure. And it bothered me that, the Walkman brand couldn't keep up with Apple. We were brought in, a handful of us were brought in to create this small little division that would in essence, would be the iTunes store for the Walkman brand. And it kept bugging me, as I was looking at what was happening in the sports sector. I love the sports thing for this. What happened is that end of the season, the league would go, okay, there it is. All is forgiven, clean slate, go enjoy, get ready for season next year. But we all start with a new season. Now, I thought the players were the only ones that did that, but you were actually, everyone at the league was. And I was thinking about, man, this is great. Do they really not bring up when you screwed up, 2 years ago or last year? The thing that I kept trying to find is, where was the next big thing? Where is the tip of the spear of change? And, at Virgin, it was the first time ever we had built websites for artists and what that meant. And, it just, everybody getting aligned on, no, you can't stream a song, the entire song on Lenny Kravitz's, own website. How can you not do that? Right? In just 30-second samples and just all those things that had to get sorted out. And then when mobile came along, the whole app economy and what that has grown into, but in the early days, it was awesome because everybody wanted to collaborate and fantastic. And then later, I got involved, another friend that had a startup, and this was at the time where Funny or Die had just received a bunch of money, and YouTube knew that they were going to be bigger than the BBC. They didn't actually say that, but you could see that where it was going. And they seeded a variety of different folks in Hollywood to, build their YouTube channel and do content on YouTube. And So I had an opportunity to work for this great company and really talented folks called Jash. It was similar to Funny or Die. Sarah Silverman, Tim and Eric, Reggie Watts, Michael Sarah were the founders. And I worked with one of the co-founders who was a pal, still is, about doing initially just a couple of campaigns in branded content. And again, that was another time where it was like, okay, if we're not going to get the audience that we're targeting with a 30-second television spot, how are we going to do this? And look into the world of influencers and YouTube. And this was before Facebook had really built out their video component. But I was there for all of that, and we built a model of how we could do branded content, how brands could be involved. And that led me to work with the conference that happens at Sundance. You probably saw, but we talked a little bit about that in the pregame prep here for the podcast. And so now, I'm where I'm at is, working with startups. I love the vibe of working with startups. And I kind of view what my style is more of a navigator than a mentor. And I like working with startups that I may have gone down the path of figuring out this sort of marketing strategy for their business previously, or have something to help on that. But I'm working with the assumptions that I think that all of it is there. It just needs to be unlocked from the team. So I'll wrap this up. When you talked about what my passion is, so I named my consulting company Creative Digital Strategies, because I found when I was at Sony, that's what failed. There were three pods throughout the company that were really brilliant creative people in the various different divisions. Brilliant. And they had their own language, their own dialect. And then I saw that then there was the tech team, so that represents the digital. And, engineers many times are binary in how they look at things, and have their own ways of communicating that and their own code words. And then last was the people that, own the P&L, the business, the strategist, the business strategist. And I found, that's one thing I found on how I determine if I think I can help a company, or I just think that I'm not the right fit, is, especially the companies that are up and running and existing, is how those three pods, how those three teams work together and respect each other. And when they do, you see companies incredibly successful. But when there's a tremendous amount of political infighting, it doesn't help advancing the product. It doesn't help you to find the right pricing, and it by no means helps you in performance. So when I, look at startups, it reminds me of my days in the music industry. It feels just like that great indie band that got a major label deal, and now they're starting to have resources and how they manage that. It's like their first record as they're building product and launching. And I've got an addiction to that. I just can't get enough of it. When people tell me they're going to, we're almost ready to put something up on test flight, I get very excited about that. Get to see something that's got all the bugs in it, so that I can hopefully think about, oh yeah, I remember when we did this, we figured out that this might have been a path and can make a contribution. So that's me in a nutshell. There you go.
Love it, Ty. It was an amazing explanation and rendition of your journey there. So much amazing experience. So thank you for sharing that for all of us. And, just to really give a context of the breadth and the variety of experience that, you've done throughout your career and experience so far in business. So let's dissect it a little bit more, right? Where I guess, let's start a bit more from the start. You originally started in the TV and movie industry, right? Which everyone's very accustomed to with watching things and stuff these days. So I guess, what did you learn most from that experience, and how has working in that area helped you today?
Well, people always say, what's Hollywood like? What's Los Angeles like? Well, it's everything you've heard. All of it's true. for the most part, the good, the bad, and the very ugly. And how some people are motivated by a blood sport of, that's very narrow-minded and not a lot of good karma. And there's others that you can trust for the rest of your life. And, a lot of really talented, good people. A lot of good people that may not have so much talented, but they have such a great vibe. Finding them is very difficult. Finding people in this industry that you can trust and have thick skin to the rest. There's thousands and trillions of stories that have been written about it. But at the end of the day, the thread of content is storytelling. And, technology has just allowed it to be easier. It's kind of extraordinary and amazing, mobile for sure, but it's even more amazing, all the different features on your flat screen TV that you can buy for $300-400 that was $8,000. It seemed like, a few years ago. So I love storytelling. I come from, relatives that are Southern in North Carolina and Virginia, and Southerners, man, they love telling stories. And that's why, being involved with brand storytelling is just seeing like, yes, 30 seconds spots that are disruptive. Things are going to change because technology has paved different ways. And because of the telecoms, they're getting us our connectivity even faster. 5G holds out a lot of different promise for that. It'll have an impact, I think, on digital online gambling, because it's going to be so real time in so many different places. Elon Musk I've lost count how many different satellites is circling to be able to cover and give people broadband in places that no one even dreamed of. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. If it's digital, if it's disruptive and it has anything to do with storytelling, it's very attractive to me. Did I help answer the question?
Yeah, no, that was great. I loved it. We go organically, right? That's what the beautiful thing about, my show and everything like that is we see where it flows. And there's some great explanations there and where it flowed to. And let's go a little bit more now, I guess, into some specifics of what you've done, just to understand a little bit about how you work. So if we go into talk about Virgin, right? You went in and in the music industry there and restructured, right, their media efforts, because this is when Napster, like you mentioned, right, and mp3.com and things like that were starting, right? So people were starting to download things and stuff like that. So there was a very big disruption, right, that was happening in the industry at that point. So what did you focus on and how did you help them to pivot in that pivotal time, I guess? Yeah.
Well, I took a job and was completely overwhelmed. Fortunately, I was in the sector where we were writing the rules. If I'd have gone into publicity or PR, or if I'd have gone into radio promotion or production, there were plenty of people that had been doing it for a while and, were keeping up with it. But with the digital stuff at Virgin, no one knew. No, Janet Jackson had never had a website before. Neither had David Byrne. Neither had Mick Jagger. So, I was fortunate enough that I got lucky with recruiting some great folks on the team. That was our new media team before we were later called digital. And, we ended up doing 70 different websites. And people were charging, these dev shops with, the really successful pop and hip hop acts, we're spending $300,000, $400,000 on a website that now, for $16 a month on Squarespace has, 20 times more features. It was just that time. So the one thing I learned is to look around me. And even though, labels competed with each other, again, because it was all, new territory, wide open spaces, people collaborated together. And we had a lot of collaboration between each of the labels that we competed against. And that was the most amazing thing, because because right around the same time, there was a window of about 8 to 12 months, all the labels created a position that was at a VP level. And this was, before the year before Napster. And that would have put it at 1999, right? And Napster came out in 2000.
Yeah, I love that. And what I really loved, a couple of things there was about, you mentioned about collaboration, right? Even though there was competitors, it was a new age for everybody. So everybody was like, hey, how do we work through this and get those minds together? Because sometimes, just one person doesn't have all the answers, and we can help each other out, which is amazing there. And I think that's happening more and more now in this age that we're in, connecting digitally. I think the other part about it as well was just thinking forward, thinking strategically about what's going to happen, and then, positioning yourself in the right way. So like, I'll give a really great example here in Australia and globally really is like Uber, right? And
right.
Like Uber, especially in Australia, Uber was in the US, they were doing their stuff, right? And you would, it was in the news, you knew about this was happening, right? Now, if the industry here was quick enough, a lot of them are not, like the taxi industry saw this and was like, okay, if Uber's doing all this stuff, eventually they're going to come to Australia or my country, or wherever you are around the world, right? So, being strategic, you could be like, okay, what do we need to do? How can we replicate what they're doing, create it, in a similar form? And I think that if they did that and they, collaborated, they did this after, right? Or the taxi companies, but it was like too late. But if the taxi companies collaborated, like what you're saying, and gone, hey, Uber's going to come, we need to work together to do something. And then they all went together and that they've now created an app, but it was too late. But if they did that earlier, they could have had the whole market and Uber would not have, necessarily taken over, right? In terms of what they do here. So I think, that what you've just said there is really great points there about how, you can work there, and how you have to think about what's happening in the future, be aware of what's happening around the world, of how things are changing, and then, stay ahead of the game and get people like yourself in there or other people around you to ensure that happens. So, really amazing that you guys did that, and it's still evident, today. Really,
but it's always the case, and I think that, there was, and Uber was smart enough to go to their investors and build a strong enough case that their international expansion, they needed the cash to move fast, because it was not that difficult for other industries to replicate it if they started when there was only 10 Uber drivers versus 10,000. And I was, there was a quote from Netflix, when they said, well, what do you think about HBO? And they go, well, we're just trying to be HBO sooner than when, HBO decides to try to be Netflix. That story played out exactly as that the concern, right? And that's where it's exciting. I believe in this one core principle. It's on my little website, that the promise of digital has always been shortening the distance between passion and purchase. And when you look at the companies that have become successful, many of them is because they got it, and they saw that the potential of digital was not a threat, it was an opportunity. And companies that were able to deliver to the consumer bigger, better, faster, because they were shortening their distance, is extraordinary even today. I mean, isn't Robinhood a phenomenon because they shortened the distance between passion and purchase of GameStop stock, all driven by a group of folks on Reddit? I mean, you couldn't have written that as a Hollywood script 5 years ago, and probably they would call it science fiction. But that happened. Non-fungible tokens that had been around for a while, but right place, right time, shortening the distance between passion and purchase. All that layers that happens with art dealers and like, it's just another game. And And you're starting to see the mainstream industry of art dealers pay a lot of attention to this, obviously because of the price. It's been going on. This is not something brand new. But now there's an announcement yesterday that Visa is getting into the cryptocurrency in a big way. That's extraordinary and incredibly disruptive. Visa's not waiting until it has a huge impact on the business. They're making the leap and collaborating and figuring it out. Hopefully, it all works out for them. But I think that, when I look at a company that I might be interested in working with, someone I know works there, it's coming up in my feed, whatever, I go back to, well, okay, I wonder how the creative team gets together with the tech team and collaborates with the business strategy team who owns the P&L on that. I wonder how they all work together. I wonder how, if it's an existing company, are they starting to realize that they've got to make a really substantial move on looking at how they can deliver by shortening the distance between the passion of the customer and getting them to the purchase. Now, not everything on the web is, of course, is purchase oriented, but signing up is a form of leading toward purchase and the like. But that's where the opportunity is. And I was excited about coming on your show because of us being able to dive even deeper into what is it that causes the business growth for the viewers that they can take advantage of. Well, my feeling is that you got to have some key indicators that you use. Not it has to work 100% of the time, but these are the North Stars that I've found in my experience that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I love that. So many awesome points there. Thanks for sharing that. It's really powerful, like you said, about all the different departments and the business working together. And sometimes, a lot of the time, you need somebody outside, but that's not necessarily in the trenches to be able to get people to understand that.
100%.
Which is
100%.
So let's pivot slightly, and I'm a big soccer fan myself, or a football fan for those outside of the US and Australia. I've played it all my life, and I still do. And it gave me.
Wait now. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not going to let you get away with just saying I'm a fan without me asking a few follow-up questions before you go to your question. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Fine.
All right. So, what's the most you spent on a ticket to watch a football game?
Most I've spent, I think, for when one of the big guys came down here. Actually, no, I'm just trying to think. I've been to the last 2 World Cups.
Okay. Well, that cost a couple of bucks, or at least you needed to know.
It was at least I didn't scalp them or anything like that because I heard some people spend a lot of money. I got them properly, but I think I spend at least $300-400 probably for one ticket.
100% you're a fan. 100% you're a fan. Yeah. Well, 2 more questions. Question number 2: how many jerseys of the teams that you follow do you have, or hats?
I'm a big Manchester United fan. I've been from a young age. I went there in '99 when I was quite young, and got one then. And I've bought one every year. That's my thing, to support the team every year.
Very good. Okay.
Probably got over 10. I've probably got 10 to 12 of them, I reckon, every year for the last 10 years or so.
All right. So I've got to add 2 more questions onto this. It wasn't a regret of the purchase, the fan purchase you made, but those that know you sometimes like to make a little joke of what you bought as a true fan. Was there anything that you bought, a poster, a very ugly sweater, scarf, or any of that for Manchester United? Nothing?
Manchester United wise, probably not as much. I guess, there's when I'm Greek background myself, and Greece won the European Championships in 2004, like crazy 100-1 odds and stuff like that. So I bought a big scarf and I had all the players' names. I used to wear it around. People used to give me a bit of stick for that, but I was still wearing it proud. So I think, yes, there's a little bit of rivalry, but I think, in sport, but I think it breeds a lot of good passion as well in it. So yeah,
absolutely, fantastic. So I would like to say, since I've worked for 2 major sports leagues, you are a confirmed fan. Okay, so you're good to go on that. And have you seen this thing called the TV show on Apple TV called Ted Lasso?
No, I haven't.
You know anything about this? Has it made it way down? Oh, it's fantastic.
Okay. I'll definitely be checking it out after this.
It's on Apple TV. I would imagine maybe they have it in Australia, but you got to check it out. It's about a guy who was a coach in the Midwest, and he was brought in to coach a very legacy football team in the UK, because the woman who owns the team got divorced from the guy, her husband, who was a horrible person. And her job was to hire the worst coach in the world who knew nothing about football to drive the team completely in the ground and go bankrupt, be bought, as spite to her husband.
Very interesting. I love that.
I'm not going to say any more about it, but it's great. Yeah. And I think I know as a football fan, you'll totally love this.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And just one side thing. When I went to Brazil for the World Cup, I bought this like wooden whistles that they made by hand, right? And it used to be very loud and stuff like that as well. So that was something I used to annoy people a little bit, I guess, with when I came back, but it was fun.
Yeah, you're 100% true fan, you know?
Exactly.
You got more than enough evidence, you know. If there was ever some sort of thing where there was an asteroid going to destroy the Earth and only the sport fans got to be on the one ship, you'd be able to go. No problem. You're good.
Thanks, Ty. I'm sure you're part of it as well with the industries that you've worked in as well with sport and everything like that. And
I would hope so. You know, I still know some of those guys at the NHL. They're fine people, great folks.
Yeah, it is awesome. And you know, and a side thing, I think like for the MLS, I think Beckham was a massive thing that started the MLS, right? You know, now he's obviously got his own team in Inter Miami there, but beforehand when it was in LA, really the first sort of big person, I guess, to come to the US with the stature that he had, you know, originally Manchester United, you know, as well, went to Real Madrid and then there. And then now you've had a lot of big stars. I think Ibrahimovic recently. It's a lot of people. So the MLS is really building, you know, which is amazing over there. And you know, I've played, as I said, a lot, and you know, this is where I guess mindset comes into it. It's given me the will to win and succeed, and you know, win and everything like that, which I think is important for people, right? So I think there's a lot of studies that show that if you've played sport or a martial art or something that has, it could even be music potentially, that has a lot of discipline, like you've done it for a lot of years, then that helps you to build a lot of resilience. Now, you've obviously consulted, you know, with the US Major League Soccer. You've built, you know, created business plans and stuff to launch like mobile services and stuff like that to do it there. And you know, I understand that there was like a short time frame, right, that you had to deliver this to them. So when there's time constraints, like what did you focus on, and how did you ensure that it was delivered well and on time for them?
Well, there was some new technology that had to be developed. That was the other thing, you know, and our challenge at the NHL specifically was we had a big deal with Verizon, and Verizon was on the platform that was not the iPhone platform, and AT&T had the exclusivity on the iPhone, and that's where all the buzz was. So what became challenging is that we had to figure out how we were going to stream the games live on Blackberries, because that's what we needed to, that was the preferred handset of Verizon. And it was a challenge. So that, you know, it was a marketing strategy, but we also had to have some technology to be able to deliver it on. Because, you know, we would sit there going, baseball's like, yeah, look at our new iPhone app. We're going, yeah. But what we ended up doing was we knew that it wasn't long before that Verizon would have an iPhone. And, but there was no restrictions on us putting an iPhone app outside of the United States. So United States and Canada, each of them had a deal with a telecom that didn't have the iPhone. So that was kind of, you know, interesting challenge of figuring that out. And fortunately, you know, we had there's a lot of Canadians that are, you know, hockey fans, so that's good. And we had a lot of relationships up at BlackBerry and RIM. And I remember that we got out of a meeting and I said, hey, listen, let's not send any more promises to Verizon with PowerPoints and screenshots. Let's hold off. Well, we kind of need to get this moving along. I said, listen, what we're going to do, let's get our pals to send us some loaners from what we're doing with our folks in Canada. And then, which is on the same system as what Verizon's on, CDMA. And I just want to give them 3 phones that they can actually watch the game live on the work that we've done, because there was a good symbiotic relationship with all the Canadian engineers up at BlackBerry. And that was kind of a smart move on the team. We kind of, I can't remember exactly who came up with that idea, but we all thought, well, this is a good idea. No more PowerPoints. Let's see what happens when they look at the games for the weekend. And that accelerated the conversation.
Yeah, I love that.
Because it was a proof of concept. Because everyone's concerned because some of the video rendering on BlackBerry at that time wasn't as good as what we were seeing on the iPhone. So, but everyone, again, if the success was through collaboration, and that everybody working together and figuring it out, and that had a huge impact. And then Verizon expanded their sponsorship with the NHL, which was great. So we were doing something right.
Yeah, I love that. It really shows that getting something out there, right? So then you can work with it, and then building it from there is really important to show those initial results. And I guess if we're talking about big brands now, right? Like you've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world. Like we've already mentioned some. I know that you've worked with like McDonald's, Chevrolet, PepsiCo, Ford, Motorola, like the list goes on. Like I've worked with a few big ones like Kmart and Target. I still do currently, and Westwood Coles and stuff like that as well. Now, I'd love to hear from your side of things, right? Because a lot of people would love to work with big brands, right? Whether it's, locally in their country or international, whatever it is. So how do you get into these companies, so to speak? Like, is it relationships? Are there other ways? And how do you ensure that you deliver for them? Because obviously these guys have big reputations as well.
Well, brands are complicated because of a variety of different reasons. One being that there's always agencies that help them with their marketing. And that opens up some opportunities for things to get political. And, and when you don't have the collaboration, it becomes challenging, right? And I think that, the secret behind the brands, there's no secret about the brands. It's the obvious about the humans. Now we're going to move into something controversial. So if folks have not stayed until now, they're going to miss something that maybe there might be a couple of comments on. But in my experience of working in marketing and brand storytelling and digital and just different business models, what always rings true is the brand that the person works for is not as important as their own personal brand. And I challenge anyone to argue that point. But, we're all worried about, are we going to get fired? Chief marketing officers, their tenure is not getting any longer. It continues to be shorter or stay the same. For a while there, it kept getting shorter. But, and all these different technologies and different ad tech things and what are the venture capitalists investing in that are going to be my new competitors when I wake up tomorrow morning, to people that, are not at a C level, but, are at a mid-management level. And it's a good gig. It's a good paying gig. And there's not a lot of support for taking chances sometimes in different companies. So I always try to make it easy when I'm talking to a brand. I like to make it so there's something in it for them.
I love that.
And nothing beats a case study of you or the person that greenlit a project, and not only was it successful, but we who benefited from the sponsorship, such as when I was at Jash, took advantage of making sure to find channels to tell the case study, and if there's a chance that you're being earnest and not coming in with a bunch of hot air, and they start to see that, yes, this could implode and I could get fired. But I might get hired by a competitor or another company because I had what I like to call this thing called creative courage, the courage to be creative. And, but better still, if it's a win, I'm going to get a promotion, and I think that is, with your strategy of wanting to work with any brand, in addition to also, you got to do the right targeting. If you want them to do something with comedy, but they've never done comedy before, you got to have everybody on board to guide through and make sure you get it right. Or, there's production that was shot, and then in the edit and the post, it was decided not to proceed, and nobody wins on that because the money was spent and it didn't have any impact on the campaign. So I think that, you got to think about, what is transparently happening. And when you're in that room, you've got that you're doing the pitch, hopefully not Zoom, not much more Zoom anymore, but it'll be for a while. You got to think about, the person in there that's got the most to lose if this thing backfires. And I've been at some very crucial moments where we were all gunning and moving forward, and they needed to be a conversation with the person that in essence would get fired or demoted or add to the more politics than they needed. But we were transparent, and we were honest about what could happen if it did blow up, but focused on what the success was, and was able to proceed. So that's got to be part of the strategy. It really does. And it makes sense. Everybody's human, and it's not that they're being selfish, but, it's just, they've got to think about, do they really need to do this? And, they can continue to keep the same salary, keep staying the same, track for annual bonuses without, having something like that blow up. Unless you've got the leadership that has a creative courtesy, unless you've got everybody that's working together. And for sure, if it's only one lone person in marketing and you don't have anybody else, that's going to collaborate, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I love that. Really amazing points there that you shared, and what to look for, and about, what a bigger, what's the biggest thing that people are going to lose and stuff like that. I really, I love that, because a lot of people are like risk averse, and, especially when they get into senior, like management or mid-level management levels, like you said, they get bonuses. So some people are like, I don't want to risk this, right? Whereas, if a business just keeps doing the same thing that they're doing, eventually someone else is going to do it, and it's likely they're going to go down. So like you said, I love that creative courage word that you mentioned, that's where people need to, venture out. And if they don't have people within the organization, get someone like yourself to come in and say, hey, how about we think of things differently? Let's go down this path. These are the reasons, and everything like that. So I really love that side of things of what you just shared. And you were mentioning about brand storytelling, right? So let's go a little bit, I guess, deeper in that for people that don't maybe understand that about this strategy and why it's important, especially now in this digital age that we're in.
Well, it's always been, important, but it just takes different delivery systems. When I was at Jash, we did the series of 3 2-minute videos that was part of branded content for one of their products. And I remember being at an event, and I heard the woman on the panel speak from General Mills, and I just said, hey, we did this thing and with Karina, and you go, oh, yeah, we know all about it. And she goes, Betty Crocker cookbook was branded content. And I was thinking, of course it was. It was brilliant. I know my grandmother and my mother, that was their cookbook. But it was a Betty Crocker cookbook. I don't know if it was the case down in Australia. But so I think that, you know, what's exciting about what's happening with branded content is the same thing that's exciting about the overall advertising landscape of digital. And things are changing rapidly on that landscape. And, you know, what's happening with the reality that the streaming channels are now delivering audiences bigger, better, faster. Once again, shortening the distance between passion and purchase versus the ad-supported network television content that is a 30-second disruptive spot. So, you know, it opens up a lot of doors to new people that are brilliant creators. So I think that, you know, when you say what's up with the brand storytelling, what's happening, I think that it continues to grow. And I think that there's been enough wins and enough case studies of showing this is how you can connect with specific audiences. And you know, there's hardly any audience that you can't connect with really good brand storytelling that resonates and respects that audience that you want to engage.
Yeah, I love that. Really, you know, and I know as humans, right, that we're naturally inclined to, you know, understand and connect with stories, right? So by showcasing the brand storytelling there, you know, you can really connect with your consumers or whoever that is, right, that want to do that along with you. And that's really important. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to be left behind basically. And there's obviously different creative ways of doing that in the digital world. And I guess one other way now, because like social media is becoming massive, right? Especially with the big platforms. And another thing with that is also influencers, right? Like influencers now becoming massive. So
yeah,
I guess what can you share on the benefits of partnering with influencers, and how can we like work with them if we're really wanting to take our, you know, business and brands?
right. So, you know, I think it's about 3 tiers of engagement. And I first learned this with my assignments in sports. It never connected, but then I got it. You know, when I would go in and when I was at Jash and pitch, we had a specific strategy where we thought that music travels very fast on the internet, shareable, and so does comedy. So comedic music videos that carries a 2-minute story. We had some successful campaigns with that strategy. But we would go in and saying, look, we need to hit 3 different sectors of your target audience. You know, first thing we've got to do, we've got to get as many people as we can to watch the 2-minute video. So that's like level 1 engagement. I've spent 2 minutes because of whatever talent, celebrity it's in it, or the story, or has a funny dog or a cat or a bear or whatever, you know, or a car that turns into a superhero. But it's an interesting story and I watch it, right? So that's level 1. Level 2 is it's not enough for me to watch that because The Rock is in this short little film, or, you know, fill in the blank celebrity, whoever that I'm a big fan. So I not only do I need to watch this as many times, but I have to tell everybody I know, even strangers, by posting it, putting it on Instagram, linking through and like. That's level 2 of engagement. So, you know, everybody be like, well, that's great. We'll get 2 levels of engagement. And I go, no, I think there's a third. It's not enough that I watch it a million times. It's not enough that I tell all my friends. I have to engage more. And that's the point where that's the audience, that's the fan, is like, it's like in the casinos when they talk about how, you know, the big whales that are the big, you know, gamblers. I remember when Farmville was this phenomenon on Facebook, and they had fans that were spending $100,000 a year on virtual goods. Well, that was, looking back, hindsight's 2020, that may be why we see the people overspending on, non-fungible, non-fungible tokens, right? Yeah, in NFTs. So I think what happens is that it's about creating digital content for brand storytelling, where you're looking at three audiences. Ones that are casually interested, others that, are tier 2, and then the fanatics. I learned it at NHL and MLS because I would see these different things that had this team logo on it. One was a clear plastic inflatable chair. I just thought, gosh, how does this work? And he goes, those are the fanatics, and there's been a lot of interesting thoughts and studies and articles written about you can survive on 1,000 fans. Being a journalist, you decide to create your own paywall, have a little bit of it that you would allow people to see for free, but you get 1,000 fans to pay you $10 a month, at a rate of, that fan delivering $120 a year. That's that engagement of tier 3. Yeah, I'm crazy about Starbucks. I wouldn't say I'm an addict, but I do get a lot of those stars, and anytime an email comes in or anytime a notification, I'm in, or a game or whatever, because I like the product. I enjoy it. If you tell me about something about Patagonia, I'm in that tier, that third tier. So I think that when you are designing, content that's going to be branded content and working closely with the creative agency and the media agency and the key people at the brand in the marketing department, you got to look at that content like, okay, maybe we cut it up in edits and that goes on TikTok and something else happens. But you got to look at the fact that you've got some casual, you've got some people that are, deeper fans, and then you've got the fanatics. And you got to give the fanatics things to do, secret contest, special discounts. When we would do these comedic music videos, what we would do is that we would create an environment, and sometimes it was actually turns into a contest, that fanatic fan would do their response video, the parody video, and we would give them the music track or give them the dialogue track so they can compete. And then you would have this whole group of fanatics, that were very vocal, that took the art, took the brand storytelling, and then interpreted it and responded back. Zephyr did a study that was amazing. I'm trying to remember exact statistics, but it was about, they looked at how much Nike was spending during a certain period for their marketing of specific products. And then they looked at how much positive user-generated content. And the ratio, if I remember correctly, was like for every dollar they spent, they got back with the fans that were fanatics of the Nike brand, something like 8x, maybe 6x. So I think that, you got to play to that third tier, and I learned that from looking at how sports is, how people come are casual fans, those that are season ticket holders, and those are the ones that when their team goes into the World Cup, they buy some very weird scarves. You see how it all circle back? But that's important because that, you got to get them in the casino, as they say, because, you don't know how much they're going to gamble until you get them in the casino. And once they're in the casino, maybe they're just there playing the slots, but then they can graduate up as they start to see everything else. And I think when you look at branded content strategies, you got to think of the 3-tier engagement. Because why not? Because if you really service that top tier, they create more content and advertising for you, the brand, in a positive way. It's golden.
Yeah, I love that. Such amazing points there, and loving how, that third tier and the bounce back when you get that, and leveraging that, like you said, of
Right.
testimonials and case studies and other things, right? Depending on what the focus is on that. Very powerful for social proof, if you put it like that as well, with how you're delivering on your promise. So really love that. And I guess
just, a lot of people, they don't necessarily wake up successful, right? Like, we've all gone through a journey. Everyone's different from a young age and everything like that. Everyone's.
I think that's called inheritance.
That's right.
Those who wake up, are the ones that are the inheritance recipients.
That's right.
And they're pretty confident that the will not change. But if you're not in that group, yes. For the rest of us, yes.
Yeah, for the majority of the rest of the world, that's where we are, and we have to build ourselves up, right? Like no one's just wakes up successful, right? And even the people that have inheritance, they need to still build those things, right? Because they could lose it all very easily if they're not.
Oh yeah, sure.
Have those skills. So, and a lot of that is due to like coaching and mentoring, right? Because a lot of the stuff we don't know necessarily what we're doing. And yes, we can fumble our way through and stuff like that, but having external people, right, from outside of us to, understand parts of ourselves that we can't see, or to help us because they've been there along the path, or they've done it in different similar areas and stuff like that, there to help us to achieve. So I'd love to hear from your point of view of how you see that, how that's impacted your life, or how you impact others and things like that in that space.
Well, I have I need to ask you a question that I was thinking about, and then we'll go. That should lead it to where we want to go in this conversation. Have you found that you're in a situation as a coach that you're realizing that the client, the person that has brought you in as a coach, is not coachable?
All of the people that I've taken on so far are coachable. And yes, there are some people that are not coachable. I've seen them when I've been in like group coaching sessions and stuff like that in masterminds, and they're the ones that argue. And I guess it's up to the coach to really understand what the expectations are, the commitment and things like that. And there's a lot of different types of coaches as well, right? Like, there's mindset coaches, you got sales and marketing coaches, you might have leadership, you might have all around business, like what I do with a lot of different areas. So, and everybody does things differently, right? So, some people are going to like bang, run along with it, massive shifts very quickly, which is amazing. That's ideal. Other people are going to have a lot more challenges, and that could be due to their mindset or because, they're very stuck in their way. So you got to sort of persist, right, for a while there and really work out what's the deep-seated thing, right? Because a lot of the surface level things are not really the challenges, right? So when they're uncoachable, I think it really comes down to beliefs that are a lot deeper for them, right? So as a good coach, hopefully you can do it yourself or give them onto somebody that can really shift them from that frame of mind, right? To get them to understand that, it could be beliefs from their parents, it could be other things being stuck in their ways, that there's better ways of doing things. So that's up to the coach to be able to really shift them, right, in that area. So I've been able to do that, and everybody does things at different stages, like, quicker and slower and different levels depending on where they're at. So, I pride myself in that, I guess, but that's really what it is. And it's also depending on the coaching style, right, as well, because there's inductive and deductive coaching. Like, a lot of the best breakthroughs that happen with coaching is when you ask the right questions, you dig down, you find the things, you create change, right, through them. The other way of coaching is you tell them, right, which is sort of along the mentoring side, but it can be coaching as well. And that has benefits as well. Sometimes though, by them doing it themselves and coming to the realization, you can have more profound shifts as well.
Right.
So that's the difference there with coaching. Does that help you out with that?
I think that the better coaches, the ones that are really good in the game, realize that there's some people that are not coachable relative to their style. And I think for people that are in leadership positions on teams, bringing someone in that has maybe it's the board members that bring somebody in to be the CEO, but they realize that CEO is not coachable. Something has to happen to fix that. I also think that it's interesting because when you join a company, your title, I feel quite sure you've heard this before, different people have said it, but your title is what makes you the manager, but it's really the people that report into you that make you the leader, you know? And I think that if you come into that situation, or you can coach people to realize how having some humility with that is mission critical, you know, especially when you're talking about large companies and they have people reporting into them. Some of them, you know, without a name tag, you wouldn't know their name, or maybe you have some personality disorder, not a good leader, that you wouldn't care. But I think that, you know, so for me, is any specific things where I've had like someone be my mentor and be my coach. I think I got a lot out of one professor in grad school, and I was at UNC at Chapel Hill, and it was perfect. And he basically, you know, it was a variety of different things, but there was one meeting that was everything. And I felt like that I'm grateful for him for what he said. And basically what he said was, he said, you know, that if I don't crack the whip with you, you'll never leave this town. You'll continue to get like and he named some of my friends that were professional students, you know, maybe they would finish the master's program, then they apply for the PhD, and then they wouldn't finish that and they transfer. And they were doing this for, you know, it could be for eternity, because, you know, Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill was just like perfect. And, you know, when fall season happened, there were more students than they were locals there, and just everything was about the basketball team and all that sort of stuff. And and he said, listen, man, finish writing your thesis and get out of here, you know, because you're going to be stuck here forever. And I felt like that it was kind of mean, you know, and then I realized it's the best advice probably I've ever gotten from anyone that mentored me, because, you know, I did finish, others didn't. I moved to Washington, D.C. That job sent me to California. It was just kind of you know, the journey that happened because of that. Yeah. But I haven't had anyone that I would have these conversations with. I have folks that definitely have provided that every now and then mentoring sort of thing, but it's not something like every 3 months I sit down with a mentor. Maybe that's next. Who knows? How about for you? Have you had that? You've referenced in a couple of the other podcasts about different people that had a big influence on, you know, what you've been doing with your career.
Yeah, definitely. I've got multiple coaches now and mentors, and, you know, I think in the end, what I tell everybody is find someone who you resonate with that is going to get you a certain result, right? Like whether it's in business overall, whether it's like mindset, right? Like whether it's a life coach, mindset coach. Like I do mindset as part of business as well, but maybe people don't want to start a business, but they just, you know, have challenges, right? But if you're like you said, with leadership, I think leadership is very important, even at an early stage in a business or a large business. Once you start getting employees in, is understanding how to do that and how to, you know, JT Fox, who, you know, I get coached by, says, you know, how you change is how you succeed, right? Because what you've got to where you are now is just gets you to where you are. You need to constantly up level yourself. And it's interesting because like what JT says is like a lot of people say, focus on your strengths, right? And get the other stuff. But what JT says, like, that's great, but the weaknesses are the things that hold you back, right? Sure. So if you've got especially one big weakness, whatever that is, right? Then if you improve that, then that could be the thing that really shifts everything else, because then that you don't have that holding you back. So, you know, and I guess the other thing as well is that, you know, is being open, right? And everyone's got different styles and you resonate with different people, that's fine. But there's the old saying is sell them or give them what they want, right? But then actually give, like, or tell them, I should say, but then actually give them what they need, right? So they may not know they need something specifically, but their surface level is like, this is what I want. Like, yeah, no worries, I can give you that. But when you dive in there, you realize there's something else that they actually need. And that's going to give them the biggest shift. And that's where a good coach comes to. And that's what's helped me. And sometimes it can be small shifts. Sometimes it can be big things, saying, like you, just saying, hey, you need to do this, right? Or this is the way you've got to do it. And it's like, it's a bit of a thing. It's a bit of a hit on the ego sometimes, I guess. And that's where you've got to not have emotional intelligence, not react and go, okay, this person is further down the line than me. They're more successful than me. I need to be open to this different way of thinking. And that's going to help me to move forward. So that's definitely been, you know, a big thing for me in getting that coaching, mentoring, that advice along the way, it's helped me to get to where I am, and I'll continue to do that because, massive. And there's different elements, right? Like you don't just need one. You know, as I said, you can have multiple coaches for different things,
Sure.
depending on what you want. And I guess just wrapping everything up, right? Like we've talked about so many amazing things today. If we were going to just wrap it up and just say, like, what one key piece of advice, I guess, would you give to all the entrepreneurs listening today, that's really going to help them move forward?
Well, I think it goes back to what you put out there is what you get back. And, where the future, if we could all predict the future, maybe that wouldn't be so great. I mean, the whole benefit of being involved in running a business is doing the due diligence and having some gut checks about where things are going to go for the company, but more importantly, what's happening with the market. And I think that having folks that will be honest with you and tell it like it is, maybe not so much a direct report so much, and that's important too, but having, external sources that are a coach, a mentor, a navigator. I think as things become even more challenging and complicated, I think that that's essential. But it goes back down to, why is everyone here working at this company on this team, right? And if they're not getting something out of it that enriches them and has, the leadership being trustworthy, I think it's difficult to succeed. Not impossible. A lot of companies, have leadership that are kind of difficult. But I think that, that's where it gets really interesting. And I think that, as we see the generations that are coming up and what they've been exposed to, from everything to do with a connected world to how everyone can be more global because of technology and all the different factors. I think that that's where you need to head as you drive a business, and sustainability is a big theme. There's a huge shift that's happening relative to climate change. I think it seems like it, and I think products associated with that. It's fascinating to me how many people want electric cars, and how well that's done. I think Tesla's done an extraordinary job with marketing. Now they're going to have looks like some pretty serious competition. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I think, the two key words you use, the emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I love that.
That's going to get you through the rough times,
Definitely. So many amazing points there. Thank you for that. And yeah, we connected through our networks where I learned about your awesome journey, which includes working in a variety of high profile industries like TV, music, sport, comedy. It all goes on, and you've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world and delivered exceptional results to all of them. Creative Digital Strategies sounds like an awesome, innovative and forward-thinking business, which is greatly helping businesses to really get their message out effectively, which is amazing. And, you're a great guy as well. And it's been really fun today. I've really enjoyed this, and there's been so much value that's come out, and I'm sure you're going to continue to make, a really big difference in the world. So very, very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to working with you in the future as well.
Well, I look forward for you to get over here, because if you could get to Los Angeles, you're not that far from New York. I kind of feel like this is my responsibility that, you haven't been to New York, and we just have to fix that.
That's true. And yes, COVID permitting, hopefully in 2022, we're all back to somewhat normality, and I'll get back down to LA. I did go to LA a year and a half ago or so, and love to get back there to catch up in person. And definitely got to get to New York and check that out. Haven't been there yet, and maybe a few other places around the US. There's I'm very focused on the challenges is get you to New York, because that's where you need to be. I'm not sure for how long or what duration, but I'm confident that that has to happen. So when I see an opportunity that it might get you to New York, trust me, I'm going to email you. Done. I'll be there. So I love it. Keep me accountable. And when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'll definitely go to New York. When the opportunity arises, right, we just got to strike when the iron's hot, so to speak. So
probably it's because some sort of football game's going to show up there, and you might have to go there and buy another funny scarf again.
Definitely, I love it. We'll cross that bridge when it goes, and maybe we'll get a picture or something like that to remember.
I'm expecting that evidence. Yes.
I love it. So yeah, thank you so much for your time today, Ty. I'm sure people have greatly benefited from your valuable wisdom. So how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Oh, the most simplest way possible. TyBraswell.com. So TyBraswell.com. That's my consulting website. And if you go all the way down to the final page on my website, you'll see a little music surprise, little piece of video.
Awesome. The personal branded website, that's what it's all about these days, to get it out there. So yeah, amazing. So thank you everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. Have a great day.